Well, it's true. We have finished a few things in our homeschool for this year. Now I am ready to turn the page in my homeschool planner from January to February. And I just wanted to share with you today what we accomplished in January, along with some of the things that we did this month. Plus, at the end of this video, I'm going to share a little bit about my goals for this year and what I have accomplished so far. Hi everyone, welcome to our homeschool table. My name is Jerilyn. I'm a mom of 3 kids, ages 10, 3, and 1. This is our 6th year homeschooling, and over the last few months I have been sharing here on my channel about how each month has gone so far. This last month in January, I also did a mid-year kind of review of how all of our curriculum is going. So today, since I just did that video recently, I'm not going to go super into depth about everything, but I am going to talk a little bit about what we've finished and what we're moving on to. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it. Now, at the beginning of the month, I did a planning video and I had shared that I was going to spread out our enrichment studies a little bit differently than we had been doing before. Over the course of this school year, we have mostly been doing hymn study, picture study, and composer study. And I use Happy Hymnody for our hymn study of the month. And then I use Ambleside Online for our picture study. And that was going fairly well. And we took kind of a break from that in December. And then in January, when we came back, I had decided that we would try a little bit different of a schedule for those enrichment studies, where we did a hymn for a week, and then we did picture study for a week, and then composer study for a week, and so on. And honestly, that just did not work. I was not enjoying that, and so we are scrapping that plan. And so this last week, the last week of January, we went ahead and just did our normal hymn on Monday and Thursday, but we also kind of listened to it other times throughout the week if people request it. Mostly my 3-year-old son is the one that requests those, and he really likes to listen to them during lunchtime. So we've been doing that. And then this last week we did do a picture study. We are following the Ambleside Online plan, and so we are just starting Caravaggio here in January, and so that'll take us probably the next 10 weeks or so going forward to finish all of those. So let's go ahead and talk about language arts. If you saw my videos in the last couple of weeks, you may have seen that we are switching language arts curriculum, and it's not because anything was going wrong or bad, it's just that we finished a couple of things. So my daughter, this last week at the end of January, she finished her Christian Light Education Reading 5 program for this year. The way that I scheduled that program, it was going to take 4 days a week for 20 weeks to complete all of the lessons. So that was scheduled through the end of January. And then at the same time, she was also using Fix-It Grammar Level 1. And since she had started that program in 4th grade and did 10 weeks in 4th grade, we had 20 weeks to finish up in 5th grade. So it worked out perfectly that I scheduled those 2 curriculums together. And so she finished Fix-It Grammar Level 1 this last week as well. So instead of moving on in those curriculums, I decided to switch to learning language arts through literature. We are using the Purple Book this year, which is geared towards 5th grade skills. I did a whole flip through on that program. I will link it up here for you if you haven't seen it, and just talked a little bit about how that program works. So I'm really excited, and my daughter and I actually looked through it yesterday, and we went through kind of how the program is structured and how I want her to work on it, and we talked all about it. She did decide that she thinks that she wants to do day 1 and 2 together on Mondays, and then day 3 on Tuesday, day 4 on Wednesday, and day 5 on Thursday, so that then she doesn't have to do any language arts on Fridays, which is what we'd been doing before, because both Fix-It Grammar and CLE Reading are 4-day-a-week programs in the way that we structured it. So I hope that she doesn't feel too overwhelmed with that. I did notice in the Learning Language Arts through Literature curriculum that day one is a little bit lighter than especially the end of the week activities. And they have a review at the end of each week. So I want her to be able to do that review on Thursday. I think it's going to work out fine and it'll all be great. But anyway, that's for next month's video. So she did finish language arts. We are working on Matthew C. Epsilon, which is the fractions book. And we are halfway through lesson 12. And I know that seems a little behind, and that's fine with me. We did kind of take it slow because not only was she learning fractions and that whole new concept, there is review of multiplication and division that she learned in 3rd and 4th grade. And Matthew C. expects a lot of students as far as the place value that they expect them to be able to multiply and divide to, which is great. But she needs a little bit more practice sometimes than what's in the systematic review. So we have been doing some extra practice on those things, multiplication and division mostly. I think that we are going to be able to go about a lesson and a half a week from here on out with the way that I've kind of decided to structure it. In the way that Matthew C is set up, there are 7 pages. A, B, and C are the new material. D, E, and F have the new material plus review material. And then G is enrichment. And we normally do just the first 6. We don't really do the G pages, the enrichment and application. So because we do school 4 or 5 days a week, obviously there's a 6th page in there plus the test for that lesson. So we are going to be just doing 1 page a day and just continuing on. So that means that we're not doing a brand new lesson every Monday necessarily. We are just doing the next page on the next day. So what I did a little bit differently this last week is that I was stapling those pages all together for her. The student book for the program is really thick and it's really overwhelming and heavy in her book basket and all of that. So to get away from that, I have always torn out the pages for her, and she really likes that. And sometimes we would do all the pages of that lesson and sometimes we wouldn't. Right now, because it is a little bit more challenging, I am having her do every single page A through F. So that means that we're not doing a lesson a week necessarily. It's more like in 7 days because we have the 6 pages plus the 7th day is the test. And that is just how we're going to go. She doesn't love it that way because she likes to do a lesson starting on Monday and testing on Friday, but it is what it is, and she's okay with that kind of slight change this year. This is the first year we've really been doing that. It's always been that we've done kind of a lesson a week. Okay, so that was language arts, enrichment, and math. The next thing that we have is our Sonlight History of Literature program. And just this last week, I posted a video about what we've been reading in our Sonlight program for weeks 7 through 15. So I will link that video up here and down in the description box as well so that you can see kind of what we've been reading and what we've been really liking. I did speed up in the month of January that program a little bit. I was kind of trying to do 2 weeks worth of information in 1 week because we were only doing 3 weeks of school this month. I'll talk about that in a minute. And so we were very busy with Sonlight in the month of January. Part of that is because we didn't really do any Sonlight in December. We were doing a different Advent study. So we just kind of took some time off of that. But that means that we kind of needed to speed up a little bit in January, and that's what we did. So now that we're at the end of January and we have caught up a little bit in our Sonlight program, not that we're ever behind, I just really prefer to be done with our Sonlight program early in June or late May. So I was trying to catch up a little bit and push some things together. And that went really fine. It was not a big deal, but my daughter did mention this last week, hey, could we slow down a little bit again? That's a lot of pages that I'm reading. And so because I had decided to make her history readings a little bit more independent starting in January, that did require her to do a little bit more reading during the daytime, which is totally fine with her. And she likes reading the visual encyclopedia and the World Wars book from Usborne. She enjoys reading those on her own, and she can very easily narrate back to me what she's been learning. So that's been going really well, but she did mention that she'd like to slow down a little bit again to a regular pace. So that's what we'll be doing for February. We still do try to do most of our Sonlight things except for Bible time 4 days a week. And so we still do kind of merge a few things here and there. But for the most part, we're just going to stick to 1 week to 1 week. The next subject that we'll talk about is science, and we are using Apologia's Zoology 2, Swimming Creatures of the Fifth Day, and we're still really liking it. And my daughter just finished the last few activities of Lesson 6 this week. So next week we will be moving on to Lesson 7, and Lesson 7 is the halfway point. We have a few other little things that we do from time to time in our homeschool that we don't necessarily do every single day or even every single week. And so I'll just tell you a little bit about those. My daughter is working on typing, and we are using Typing 1 from The Good and the Beautiful. And so she just has a document saved on our computer, and she opens that up and practices her typing. She has to do 2 days a week, but she really enjoys it. So if she wants to do 3 or sometimes even 4 lessons a week, that is totally fine with me. And then when she gets to the end of the book, we will just move on. We are also working on a character study called Kids of Character by Character Concepts. We've used their preschool Crossroads of Character and their early elementary called Character Trails. And so this year my daughter is doing this a little bit more independently. It's kind of like a Bible study with a book that goes along with it. So she has a few pages of Bible study and questions that she does on her own, and then also a page of application questions, how you can work on that character trait in your own life, and it's all written to the student. And then there is a book that goes along with it called Portraits of Integrity, and that is a book where there are stories about people in history that have demonstrated that character trait, and so she's actually reading those on her own. That is something that I am taking off my plate right now because we have a lot of other read-alouds that we're doing. So since that is about a once a week read-aloud, I'm having her do that reading on her own instead. So now let's go ahead and talk a little bit about my preschool son. We have been using the Purely Preschool program from Rachel at Where'd You Learn That, or 7 and All is her YouTube channel. And we have now completed the train lesson and the boat lesson, and they take us much longer than a couple of days. The program is written where you do 1 lesson a week, and there's lots of activities that go along with it and a couple of books for each of the lessons. Well, I'm kind of a bookish person, at least for children's books. And so, of course, I went and got all sorts of other books on trains and boats, and my son really enjoys all those books. I did a couple of videos about all the books that I got for our morning basket for preschool, and so I'll link those up above and down below in the description box if you're interested in going back and watching those. We finally finished the boats section, and so now for February, we're going to be moving on to the buses unit or the buses lesson. And so we actually read a couple of those books today. So that's all going just fine. We are still working on his Awana verses a couple of times per week. And he's in the Cubbies program at the church where we go to Awana at. And my daughter is in the TNT program, and he's doing really well. And he is actually really good at memorizing verses, just like she is and she was when she was little. So next month in February, I'm going to be adding a book from Rod and Staff, the ABC series, and I have a video on that too. But we're finally going to go ahead and start the A book, Adventures with Books. And so it has just some very simple activities to do with some coloring and looking at some pictures. So I think that he will enjoy that. He doesn't often like to do those types of activities unless it's his idea. Surprise, surprise. And so I'm just going to kind of follow his lead and put them out, strew them, if you will, and see what happens, because I would really like to get him a little bit more into wanting to do academic things. He hasn't really seemed very interested except for just listening to a lot of books, which is great, and that's what he needs at this age anyway. So I'm happy to read him lots of books about these topics instead of doing work about them. But I don't know. I would just kind of like to move along a little bit more. At this age, my daughter was in preschool full time. I was still teaching kindergarten at that time. And so when she was almost 4, she knew all of her letters and most of the sounds by then. And the only thing that we've really done with letters is sing the alphabet, and I point along with our little alphabet train chart that actually came from the Purely Preschool Transportation Unit. So he has heard the letter names and he's seen that I point along to them. And we have started working a little bit on the first letter of his name and the letters of his name. I want to start beefing up his preschool a little bit more as he gets closer to the end of this school year. The third week of January, we actually went on a family trip. And so we prepared for the trip on Monday. We left on Tuesday, got home Thursday night, and then recovered and went to music class on Friday. So we didn't do any regular school that whole week. And we had a blast at Great Wolf Lodge up in Washington. If you've never been to a Great Wolf Lodge and there's one even close to you, I highly recommend doing something like that in the wintertime. Because if you are anything like me, the darker days and colder days of winter just kind of drag on a little bit. And so we had a really fun time being in the water park there at Great Wolf Lodge. It's an indoor water park, and all of the kids just really had a blast. We spent 2 nights there, which I fully recommend spending at least 2 nights there, probably not more, because honestly, 3 days in a water park, that's probably all you need. But when we went last year was our first year doing this, we found that 1 night was not quite enough, because when you get there on the first day, you can go in the water park as early as the park opens, but then your room isn't ready until later in the day. And so then you spend the night in the room, but you're really just in the water park that whole first day. And then the second day, you have to check out by 11 o'clock. And yes, you get to stay for the water park the rest of the day, but you had to leave your room already. And so then you're kind of living out of your car, and it's just kind of weird. So we really liked spending 2 nights and 3 days so that we didn't have to worry about spending the entire, 10 hours of water park time in there. We could, just do a few hours each day, and it would be really fun. They have water slides and splash pads and wading pools for little kids. So my 2 little kids had a blast, and everybody actually slept, which was great. I was a little worried about sleeping, but we made it through. I brought my earplugs so I could drown out all of the random noises, but we just had a really fun time. Well, I hope that was helpful for you to hear a little bit about what we did in January and kind of all the things that we have been working on or things I've been thinking about. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about my personal goals for just myself and my family and our homeschool. So I did a video back at the end of December about my homeschool goals. And in that video, I showed my little checklist here because I'm one of those people, I don't know if you're like this too, but I need to see it. I need to remember that I'm supposed to be working on something. Otherwise, I completely forget and it just doesn't happen. So I made this little checklist for myself where there are the numbers 1 through 12 going across the top and then my goals down the side. I just have a few goals in each section. There are personal goals, family goals, and homeschool goals. So I went through and I marked whether or not I met that goal for this month or not. And to my surprise, I have met all of my goals this month. Some of them are more specific, measurable goals, and some of them are a little bit more objective, but objective? Some are a little bit more subjective, but that's okay. I will still talk about them. So for my personal goals, I had 4. The first one is walking 100 miles per month, and this is something that I actually started way back in November. And in November and December, I met that goal. I walked 100 miles, and I met that goal as well in January. In fact, today, which is the last day of January, I am at 104 miles for this month. Plus, last week when we were at Great Wolf Lodge, I couldn't wear my watch to count my steps or really take my phone into the water park area because I didn't want it to just be sitting around somewhere. So I know that I have even more miles than that. They just didn't get recorded. So I don't know, maybe 108 miles or something like that for this month. But I am really glad about that. I have noticed a difference in the clothing that I can wear and things like that. So that's been really nice. And I've lost about 10 pounds since I started not drinking soda and not eating ice cream every night back in August, I would say, or September. So I am definitely trying to do a little bit more in the health department. My second personal goal is to work on a deep cleaning checklist. Now, originally, I was going to make a new deep cleaning checklist, but then I kind of realized that I really already have one. I just need to actually use it. And it's something that I made for myself a few years ago. They're just little laminated checklists where it says like bathroom and all the things that I need to do to deep clean the bathroom. So I've been doing that. Over the last 2 weeks, I've been working on the kitchen, and I'm not trying to do an entire room in a week like Fly Lady and zone cleaning, all of that. I'm just trying to actually do something other than my regular daily cleaning. So far I've worked on the kitchen, and I have, well, today I'm actually deep cleaning the oven right now. I cleaned the air filters, I think they are, on the vent hood above my stove. I deep cleaned the coffee pot and the carafes. What else have I done? Oh, I shined up the sink like with actual stainless steel cleaner. So that was really nice because it was getting pretty dull looking. And then I also cleaned out the microwave and got all of that cleaned. So I've been trying to do a little bit more deep cleaning in the last week or two in the kitchen. My third personal goal is to make 1 new recipe for dinner per month, and I actually made 2 this month. The first one was a teriyaki kind of sauce that I made. So we had teriyaki noodles with chicken, and then I also made a new recipe of beef stroganoff, that just ground beef stroganoff, and we aren't mushroom people here, so I didn't put the mushrooms in, and I think that next time I make it, which my family said they liked it, so that was nice, but I think I'm gonna just tweak that recipe a little bit and do it a little bit differently. But we really liked the beef stroganoff. And then my fourth goal was to read 25 books in 2025, and so that works out to about 2 books per month. And I did my 2 books this month. I read Farmer Boy because I'm going through the Little House series. And so I finished Farmer Boy, and now I'm going to be starting Little House on the Prairie. And then I also finished Modern Miss Mason. In another video, I think I mentioned this book, and I had said that I wasn't really sure if I was liking it or not, but I did actually really like it. I just finished it this morning, and it was good for me to have a goal to finish it, because when it comes to nonfiction books, I'm really good at starting them and less good at finishing them. So it was good to have a goal and that I was going to tell you about it. So I did really like this book. As far as family goals go, I just have two. And the first one is going on a date with my husband once a month. And the second one is having a family fun night with our family in some capacity, game night, movie night, things like that. Well, we kind of killed two birds with one stone this month because we had our big family vacation, and that kind of took all the date money we had or whatnot. So I'm just considering both of those goals met by going on our family trip. As far as homeschool goals goes, that's a mouthful. I have 4 goals. The first one is keep things simple, and that is one thing that I've been really working on over the last month, is to keep the flow of our day a little bit more simplified and to cut out anything that just is kind of getting us behind. So that has been going well. The second homeschool goal that I have is to only buy essentials, and at this time of year I'm not really buying anything yet, but I am definitely in the works of thinking about next year and kind of keeping things simple again. And so I want to make sure that as I move forward through the spring that I don't get too excited to buy everything quite yet, but I'm just going to wait a little bit. And we have a local homeschool curriculum sale that is in June, and so I would like to kind of shop there first before I go and buy online and all of that stuff. We also have a homeschool resource store up kind of near us, and so I want to buy used there if I can for this coming school year. So we'll just kind of see how that goes. But I haven't bought anything right now, so that's fine. The next thing is focus on relationships, and I've been really trying to make sure that we are starting the day on a positive note, which I don't know about you, but that can sometimes be kind of hard once we get to the table in the morning. It's not super positive, and so we're working on that still. And then the last goal is to spread things out, and what I mean by spread things out is to not sit at the table, for the whole morning, but to break it up with outside time and having a snack or doing some chores or going on a walk and just having our day broken up a little bit more. And sometimes that can feel a little bit disjointed, but for us, we need to kind of clear our mind a little bit once we've finished a certain subject and then come back. And especially because I have a 3 and 1 year old, they need time away from the table because they like to be here when we're at the table, which is great, but then they get really squirrely or they start fighting or, how little kids are. They're just always around and getting into things. And so we're just trying to spread things out to keep everybody moving but happy. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm sure this was an extremely long video, so thank you for still being here. If you have stuck around this far, go ahead and leave me some sort of a comment or question down in the comment box. If you don't have anything specific that you wanted to say, just leave some sort of a homeschool supply like pencils or pens or notebooks or books or something like that. And that way I know that you're still here. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below if you haven't already. It's free. And give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today at our homeschool table, and we'll see you next time.